Hi everyone. Welcome to part 2 of our outside the bounding box masterclass series. We're really excited to have you here today. This session is called Building Robust 3D Data Pipelines from Manual Cuboids to Scalable Workflows. And that subtitle really captures what we're going to explore together. How do we move beyond manual, human-intensive labeling to build annotation pipelines that actually scale with the demands of modern autonomous systems? So some quick introductions. I'm Blake Cunningham. I'm a senior product manager here at Encord, and I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm Oliver, software engineer here at Encord on the physical AI team, mostly focused on our annotation tooling and automation.
Thanks, Oliver. Yep, so Ollie's been instrumental in building much of what you're going to see today. So you're getting it straight from the source. So throughout the session today, just please feel free to drop any questions in the chat, and we'll be monitoring those and we'll address them during the Q&A at the end. Oops, sorry, I should have flipped to the slide earlier. Okay, so here's what's planned for the next 20 minutes. We're going to start with a quick recap of our first masterclass on LiDAR workflows, just to set the context for where we left off. Then we'll introduce you to the concept of human-in-the-loop annotation and how it transforms the 3D labeling process. After that, Ollie will take you through a live demo. He'll briefly orientate you to the Encord tool, show you some of those foundational techniques from our previous masterclass, and then demonstrate how these scalable automated labeling workflows actually work in practice, along with some tips and tricks when using the tool. And then finally, we'll wrap up with Q&A. So first, just let me quickly set some context about what Encord does, especially if you're new to the platform. Encord is a data development platform designed specifically for AI teams working with complex multimodal data. And what I want to emphasize here is that these components, index, annotate, active, aren't separate products. They're all part of the same unified platform working seamlessly. So you start with index, where you can manage and select the right data for your AI application. And then you move into annotate, where you orchestrate human-in-the-loop workflows for ground truth, training, and validation data. And then active helps you find edge cases and debug model errors and discover high-impact data that can really boost model performance. And all of this feeds into your AI data and models in a continuous loop for training, fine-tuning, and validation. So we think this integrated approach is what enables our clients to build cutting-edge, useful AI products, because you're not stitching together many disparate tools. Everything works together in one workflow. And today we're going to focus specifically on that annotate component in the 3D context, where the magic of the human-in-the-loop labeling happens. So before we show you what's new, let's just recap on what we covered in our first masterclass, because today's automation builds on top of these foundational capabilities. So last time we talked about how to use Encord efficiently to create individual cuboids in 3D scenes and how to interpolate them across time to maintain consistency in your sequences. We showed you tools like the multiple synchronized camera views, so you can see the point cloud from one angle while cross-referencing it with camera footage. And we demonstrated the orthographic views that give you the perfect top-down, side, or front perspectives. We showed you how to precisely adjust objects with fine-grained control over cuboid dimension and orientation. We also covered more advanced capabilities like merging points across time. So if the point cloud is too sparse at any time, you can get the full context across the full length of the scene. And we showed you how to adjust the ground plane to ensure all your cuboids are properly anchored in 3D space. So Oliver's going to remind you of some of those tools when he does the demo. And then you'll see so you'll get to see some of them again in action. So these are powerful capabilities for manual labeling, but the question for today is, even with the best tools, manual labeling can only scale so far. So how do we take it to the next level? And that's exactly what we're addressing today with the human-in-the-loop annotation. So here's the core principle. Models can generate cuboids and other objects, but humans ensure that they are correct. So let me walk you through how this works. You start with the automated cuboid annotation. Your model processes the LiDAR point cloud and generates 3D bounding boxes for all detected objects. Now the model, it's not perfect. Some of those cuboids will be highly confident, such as standard vehicles in clear conditions. They might be very well aligned, and those can flow directly toward production-ready labels with just a quick verification. But some other cuboids will be less certain. Maybe the model isn't sure about the object class, or the alignment is slightly off, or it's a partially occluded object. These in certain cases can be quickly adjusted by human annotators. So they have full control to leverage their human insight. They can adjust, correct, add, delete, using all the precise tools we just recapped. But instead of starting from zero, they're starting from a comprehensive model-generated proposal. The results? Scenes can be accurately labeled, orders of magnitude quicker. And that human input could feed back through the active learning to improve the model itself, creating a virtuous cycle where the system gets both faster and more accurate over time. So that's the concept. Now I'm going to hand over to Oliver, who's going to show you exactly how this works in practice.
Cool. Thank you, Blake. Okay. This is our label editor tool where the magic happens. Let's get oriented. So in our main tile here, we have the 3D view with the point cloud scene loaded in. This is the new scenes self-driving car dataset. So you've got this car rig in the middle, which has got a LiDAR sensor mounted on top and 6 cameras surrounding. We can move around, we can translate, etc. Then at the bottom row, we have the images at each point in time from these 6 cameras. So looking ahead, looking behind, left, right, etc. We can zoom these in, we can move them around, etc. Then at the very bottom row, we have our time component. So we can step actually through time as the car, for example, is driving forward. You can see a bit of an example of that. Let's go back to the beginning. Then on the left-hand side, we have our classes list. So this comes from flexible ontologies that you'll set up for your particular labeling project. We have a sort of basic setup for like a self-driving labeling example here. And then finally, at the bottom left, we have the labels that have been created. At the moment, we have not none, we have very little. We'll just get rid of that one. So, okay, we need to make some labels. Before we do that, because it's going to be very, very quick. So before we do that, I'll show you a couple of other cool features that we have that make this very, very convenient to do. So we have various coloring modes, for example. So this can be very useful for if we switch to distance from origin, distance from camera, or if you pick height. I find this one particularly useful from a top-down view for seeing kind of the outlines of various objects. If we skip forward a little bit, kind of makes it easy to see, okay, where are the buildings, where are the cars, where are the things kind of sticking out. It's going to help you to kind of identify those objects to label super quickly. We also have this very cool image coloring mode. What this is going to do is basically for each point, it's going to actually sample the image in the relevant position to see what color it should be. And so you can see, for example, I think there's a really good example. Yeah, if you just go back a little bit, we can kind of see the yellow lines of the road here. There you go. You can see the crossing. Kind of just makes it a lot easier to identify like what is this object in your 2D scene. And finally, if we enable this feature merge point cloud, which Blake has already mentioned, what this is going to do is aggregate all of the points from across time and show them at the same time. And then we get this rather cool looking kind of reconstructed world type thing. I particularly like these cars over here. They kind of stand out. Okay, cool. Let's go back to the beginning. Turn these things off, recenter. So you can see we have these 2 white cuboids. Now, these are not labels that I created. These are actually predictions from the pre-labeling model. And so you can see it's pretty accurately said that these are cars. If we step through time, let's just take this top cuboid and validate. Yeah, it's looking good. We can see on the image down here that it's sticking to the car pretty nicely. And it looks like it's positioned and sized correctly. So all I'm going to do is select it and then assign it the car class. And there we go. I've created a label. Easy as that. That took no time at all. If we move a little bit towards the end, we can actually see just here, for example, that the model gets a bit less accurate. So all I've got to do now is just go and adjust this little thing here. I might actually just rotate it a little bit just to make sure it lines up a lot better. Let's maybe step forward another frame. Yeah, that's a little bit off there. So we'll just move it. And there we go. So now by assisting the model to correct it when it was no longer particularly sure, we've ended up with perfectly accurate labels in sort of 5 to 10 times faster than it would have been if I'd have gone and manually created each of those frames myself. So let's just do this again for this other car. Select it, assign car. Let's just step through. You see, actually the model's got it like way wrong here. It's actually more sort of over here. Rotate that, just verify with the image. It's looking good. Done. Cool. So for a more sort of bulk example, we've got this scene here where we're actually the self-driving car is in a car park. So there's quite a lot of cars. This is how easy. I'm just going to select them all. They're all cars. Boom. That quick. You can see the models missed a couple here. So for example, then I'm just going to go in and say, okay, this is a car. Create that label there with 3 clicks. Select it. Make sure the size is correct. Done. Now, I'm just going to show you one final thing before handing back over to Blake here is our fit cuboid to points feature. So you can see this label is not particularly tight. It's kind of got some space on the edge here. So if I just fit cuboid to points, it's going to basically shrink wrap this cuboid right down. I didn't have to go in and kind of finely adjust it to exactly where it is. I could basically just let the tool take care of that. And that's going to be a very fast way to do it. Okay, that's all from me.
Brilliant. I have a feeling we might be going back to your screen in a second, but I'll take over for now. Yeah, thanks for that, Ollie. So I think, as you can see, using automation during the annotation process can generate a lot of candidate labels, and then you can efficiently use the human tools to correct them. I think that really massively accelerates the process for generating high quality 3D data. Yeah, so I think that's all that we have for the main sections, and now we're going to move to Q&A. So I don't know if we have any questions in the Q&A currently. I think we just wait a moment, see if any come through. Okay, we've got one that's just come through now. So Abara is asking, how do you isolate parts of the point cloud to handle the noise of background points? So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, and you probably have a good answer for that, Ollie.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So let's just go back to our original scene. Let's just check you've got that coming through. Yeah, fantastic. So I picked this little bit here. If you can kind of see these points over here are people crossing the road. So let's just like zoom in on this one. We can see we've got some people crossing the road. So let's say I wanted to segment each of these individuals. Okay, so I'm going to take my segmentation. I've got a brush, and I'm just going to, let's say, brush over this one on the left. But we've got a problem. If we move over, you can see that we've basically segmented all of the points behind it as well. I'll just bump up the point size so you guys can see that a bit better. There we go. So that's not so good. So what do we do about this? We have this cool feature called the scene slicer. So you can see hide points. If I do a box selection and hold the option key, I'll do this from the top-down view. I've now basically isolated just these points. And so my segmentation brush won't affect any points sort of outside of it, but they can affect the points inside. So that's going to make it very easy. If I want to do a very precise one, let's say I want to keep all of the points from the person, but none of the points from the ground, just like that. I now essentially isolated just this one particular person, and we could go in, let's say, for each of them and do exactly the same thing, like that. So that's going to be a very convenient way of removing the depth aspect, which is common with these sort of LiDAR, just the way the sensor kind of sees the world. You've often got a lot of points aligned with each other, and it basically lets you really easily isolate out aspects. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks for showing that, Ollie. I think there's another question here, which is I think we've actually just answered, which is can you also segment points in Encore?
You certainly can.
But maybe you can just also mention that not only can you segment, we can also add polylines and specific key points. So we have a range of different class types that are used in various types of 3D tasks.
Yeah, perhaps I can quickly show a kind of lane marker polyline annotation flow very, very briefly. So if we go back to, I think image color is going to be useful for this. So I mentioned the sort of yellow lines earlier. Well, there we go. Great. If I pick my polyline, I start annotating along here. Obviously, this is just one section, but we very quickly in 3D created a line. We can verify it in 2D. Well, it's yellow, funnily enough, so kind of hard to see, but we can very quickly sort of verify in 2D that this thing lines up. We could either step through time to kind of continue this, or from any one point in time, if we re-enable the merge point cloud mode, then sort of in one point in time, we could go and sort of label all of this. So just make a new one. Go from the top, polyline, take this yellow line. Because we've got these point colorings, it's obviously very easy to just see like literally where the line is. If I just show you this with, color off, well, it's suddenly going to be a lot harder. So I think that's a useful way to do it is with this coloring mode here.
Yep. Okay, so I think we got one last question here, which is, I think it says 200M plus. I think it's 200 means 200 million plus instead of 200 meters. So I think I don't know what the precise answer is at the moment. I know we can handle very much in the region of that. I think it probably depends on other aspects of the data. So I would just recommend having a more in-depth conversation with our team.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think we can probably do a stereo data masterclass at another stage. So I think that'll be very exciting to show. I think that's a question coming from Connor.
We don't have like a sort of data set I could pull up off the top of my head, but we definitely essentially, if you know the positions in 3D space of your two cameras, we can support that. You sort of bring that into a 3D scene, and you can annotate, true 3D essentially by. I can kind of show you that, I suppose, in that you can annotate just like you can annotate from the 3D view. You can also annotate just directly from these 2D views. So it's a little bit sort of trickier, easier in these kind of in these self-driving scenes to annotate from the LiDAR, but you could, for example, annotate from the car. You could segment, for example, from the camera views as well. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, but I think it's something worth talking to us directly about, and how we use sort of 2D shapes in a stereo alignment use case. So I think that is quite interesting. Great. I think that's probably all we have time for today. But I think I've got one more slide here. Let me just share my screen again. So I've just been asked to remind people on the call to please also sign up to our next masterclass. So that's going to be on deploying GPT, Whisper, and Claude. So it's our agents masterclass. And I'm sure we'll see you again with some further 3D masterclasses. So some of the questions coming through at the end. I think we'd love to share some of our further developments there. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to show you our product, and please do get in touch. Thanks, everyone.